Okay, guys, we're back. This is week 2, notes and lecture, part 3. I apologize for how many notes and how long this week's notes are, but I did tell you that I was going to have to give you a lot of information up front before we could really get into our hands-on stuff. So we're talking about all the steps to be hired as a police officer. Sorry. And one of your almost final steps here is to go to the academy to get your training. So steps 1 through 7 was to decide if you were going to be a good fit for the department. And step 8 is to actually go to the academy and get your training done. So you should write this down in your notes. Just keep going from the last video. So step 8 is successful completion of the training academy. And I have 6 months in parentheses. That is the length of the academy here in New York State. And that is true for both local, city, town, village police departments. They go to a local academy here in our area. It's called the Zone 5 Police Academy in New York State. The state is divided up into zones, and there are local academies in each zone, and we are in Zone 5, and that academy is located in Schenectady. The New York State Police, their academy is also 6 months, but there's only one academy for the New York State Police, and that is located in Albany. So no matter where you're coming from, which part of the state you're coming from, you would all go to the same academy. I believe the academy it depends on the agency at the federal level. Glencoe, Georgia comes to mind. I think that might be the FBI Academy. I have to double check where their academy is, but I believe it's in Georgia. But anyway, here in New York, at the local or the state level, 6 months is the amount of time. Now, you are being paid. And actually, I think I say that on the next slide here. So let me So the academy is full-time, which is 40 hours a week. And you are paid during this time. You are an employee at this point. You may not be a certified police officer because you haven't finished your training yet, but you are an employee of the police department and you are getting paid. So you need to look at the academy as this is part of your job. And so as I just said, you are now an employee of the department, and you must successfully pass each and every part of the academy. You really need to focus and take it seriously because, again, there are people who fail out. They make it all the way through to the academy, and then either for whatever reason they're not dedicated enough, they're not serious enough, they're not focused enough, or they simply can't grasp the material, but they fail. And if you fail, you go home and it's over. You're no longer an employee. You have to pass the academy. So the academy is a combination of academic work, that means book work, and physical proficiencies. So, sorry about that. Now, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have a ton of slides here that is a continuous listing of topics of what they teach you at the academy here in New York State. You do not need, there's an ear on every slide where I would normally, if we were in class together, we would just kind of look at these and go through them fairly quickly. Obviously, some of these you know right away what that means. We all understand what a spelling test is. We all understand what physical fitness is, wellness. But some of these other topics, because you're brand new as a criminal justice student, you may not know what that is, what that topic is, like what is ancillary New York State statutes. The idea here is not for you to memorize what all the topics are that you're taught at the police academy. The point here is for you to get a visual an understanding of how much information and training you're going to have to understand and absorb in the 6 months that you're at the academy, and all the different topics that they're going to expose you to. So I have this first slide up, and you can see, lists of topics. And I'm just going to like click on each slide and just kind of let you, what I would say is pause the video and just read through it. You don't have to copy it all down. There's so much here. And there's no point in you even memorizing these topics. I just want you to have a general idea and understanding. So I'm just going to click through each one fairly quickly without saying anything. But I would like you to pause your video at each slide just so you can take the time to read through the list. All right, so this is our first one. And here's our second one. And obviously physical force and deadly physical force, communications, ethical awareness. I said I wasn't going to read through it, but I bet you have a fairly good idea of what those things are. But then there's a bunch of other stuff. And this is our last one. I hope at this point I know for a fact that nobody except for the people that have gone through this training have any idea how much information and training police officers get. And this is just your initial training. Your training will be continuous. Every year, you're going to be required to take X number of what they call in-service training, so many hours per year to keep your certification and keep up to date with things. Things change all the time. So don't look at this like, okay, 6 months of academy, I'm done. I learned everything I needed to know. That's just the beginning. So again, you have to, and I'll just, I think you can see over to the left here of my screen, this huge list, right? All of these things, you have to really be interested in doing this job. You have to really want to know all this. And all of these topics are not just for no reason, like, let's just throw something in there so we can call it the academy. Every single one of these topics are very relevant and very necessary to the basic patrol officer. This is all basic. This is basic academy. When you start moving up into supervisory positions, like, promote up into being a sergeant or a captain or lieutenant, there's a whole bunch of other stuff that you need to know about being a supervisor. If you want to go into the detective bureau, they will send you to investigation school. There's a lot to know. So all of these topics is just the basic amount of information that you need to be able to go out and start being a patrol officer. So again, you got to really want this. And I think by this time, if you've put yourself through steps 1 through 8, you should be pretty dedicated. But this is what I mean about, like, some people just aren't ready for, to learn all this stuff, or maybe they're academic skills aren't as high as they should be. But at the same time, this is not rocket science either. Like, I'm not trying to make it sound like, anybody who goes to police academy is like a genius. No, a regular person can do it. It's all about drive and desire and work ethic. That's what it's about. So anyway, moving on, and we can, certainly any questions, if you see a topic that you're like, oh, what is that? I want to know what that is. We can talk about that in class. So the next few slides actually are videos. And again, I'm not going to take up our video with playing you a video. I can just share the link and you can watch it if you want. This is an older video, but it's clips, this one and this one, clips of the New York State Police Academy. This is like a basic class going through. It's kind of fun to watch. This one's really good. It's a little more current. Also, these are all state police videos. I didn't really find zone videos, like Zone 5 Academy videos, but it doesn't really matter because it's fairly equal, fairly the same. So I'll share the link to this video and this one. And now we're going to get back to your notes. So you should copy this down. Step 9. We're not done yet. You're not ready just yet. One more thing you got to do, and that is field training, FTO training. Because just because you went to the academy and you successfully completed the academy, okay, but that's the school, right? Like I say all the time, I teach you everything I can inside of 4 walls in a public school, but being out in the real world is a little different, and we can us instructors can try to make it as realistic as possible, but still it's not the real deal. You're done with the academy, you're hitting the road, you're working now. We're not just going to throw you out there by yourself without having ever gone to answered a call, right? The only thing you know is what you learned in the classroom. Well, you are going to be paired with what's called an FTO, a field training officer. And this is a very experienced officer and a very good officer because, a department will only pick certain people to be FTOs. We don't want the wrong people training our new people. So this is going to vary from department to department. How long do you need to be with your FTO before you're finally cut free? That length of time varies. But we'll see what our next slide here is. And again, you got an ear so you can just listen. Sorry, I'm in the way. So after graduating from the academy, you will return to your department and be assigned to several field training officers. So actually, usually you have 3, and each one signs off on your ready. So you go with the first one, and that could be anywhere from a month to 3 months with that one FTO, and then he signs off, you're good to go, and now you go to the next one. And you ride with that officer for 1 to 3 months, and then you go to the third one. And it says here, each one must sign off that you are capable and ready to be on the street by yourself. And FTO training can last from 3 to 12 months. Again, it's different department to department, where you're working. And I believe, I need to verify this, but I thought I heard that state police make their new troopers do FTO training for 2 years. I don't know. I got to double check that because that seems like a really long time. But the longer that you're in your FTO training, the more decision making that they give you. So like when you first start, you're pretty much just sitting in the car and your FTO is going to do everything and tell you everything. But then little by little, they're going to turn it over to you. So you decide, what should we do on this call? You drive the car, you write the report. Okay, so that by the end, you basically are completely independent and ready to be independent. And that officer, that FTO officer, feels comfortable in signing off that you're ready. So that is your final step in becoming a full-fledged paid certified police officer. And again, actually, there are people, believe it or not, that have failed their FTO training. And they'll do like some remedial stuff with you. If there's just some stuff you're just not picking up, you're not getting, they'll work with you. Because at this point, the department has a lot invested in you, right? It's a lot of money just to do the first 7 steps, just to do the PT test, because they got to pay somebody to give the test, right? The civil service test, and then the physical exam and the polygraph and the background investigation. Who's doing that work? Somebody's doing it, and they're getting paid to do it because that's their job. So they have all that time and money invested, and then they paid for you to go to the academy. Academy is not free. I got to check again, but I want to say $3,000 to $5,000 is what it costs a department to send one person to the academy. $3,000 to $5,000. So, you're getting a paycheck for 6 months that you're in the academy, and on top of that, the department paid $3,000 to $5,000 to the academy because those instructors have to be paid. Right? And the light bill has to be paid. Where does that money come from? It comes from the individual departments that send officers. So there's a lot invested in you. They don't want to give up on you. For you to fail out of FTO, you got to be like, I don't know, maybe actually, to be fair, actually, for some people, actually getting out on the street and actually dealing with reality, with the people, with the situations, that is the moment that they realize, oh my gosh, this is not TV. This is not movies. They can go through all the training, but it's still not real. And so for some people, actually, it's that FTO period of time where it gets real, really fast. And some people realize, ooh, I'm not cut out for this. And you know what? As difficult as that is for everybody, it's better for someone to make that decision before they just keep going with it and then either get themselves hurt or get somebody else hurt. So that's actually probably the biggest reason people wash out of FTO training. But now after this, you get approved. You're on the street. You're on your own. So that's our next slide, on the street. Now you're ready to go to work. The vast majority of police officers will start in patrol. Patrol is typically the biggest unit in a department. It's where they have the most officers, and it's where they have the most need. Specialized units, I hear a lot of kids say, well, I just want to be a detective. A detective is a mid-career spot. Very, very few people get to be a detective in their first, second, third year of being a police officer. And more commonly, I would say 10 years. So you're going to have to do your time, probably in patrol, which is on the street, answering calls for service. You're going to have to do that work and put your time in before you're going to have enough experience and enough seniority to go into a more specialized unit, like being a detective. So, and this is a little easier to talk about in person when I see you guys in class, but I'm just going to go ahead because this is part of your notes, and I want to make sure that you get everything. So your next heading is command presence. Command presence. During any encounter with a citizen, no matter what the reason, the officer should always maintain an excellent command presence. And this is something that's, some people have naturally, and for other people, they kind of have to work on it. Our next slide has a bulleted list of what does it mean? What are we talking about with command presence? And I want to, before I move on to the next slide, I'm just going to say this. You can be very friendly. You can be very polite and still have a strong command presence. So do not think when we start going through this list that we're talking about being tough and being mean and, no, that's not what we're talking about. So let's go to, so I want you to write this down. And then we'll go to this next slide here. So, and I'm in the way again. Command presence is a combination of things. It is being alert and aware of everything going on around you. I'm speaking to you right now, and I'm paying attention to you, but that does not mean that I am unaware of my peripheral vision, that I am not listening to sounds going on around me and just paying attention. You can do several things at the same time. You can talk to somebody and you can hear what they're saying and you can understand them and you can have a conversation, but you can also be pretty aware of what's going on around you. You have to get that. You have to practice that skill. You have to become good at that. It could be life or death important. Eye contact. You're looking at the person you're talking to. You're not looking at the ground. You're not looking over here. And honestly, a lot of people have those bad habits. But there's a lot that you're communicating when you're looking right at somebody. They know. You're sending them subliminal messages that you are aware of what's going on, not only around you, but with them. Because again, some people you're going to talk to and deal with, and they're going to be very friendly and very nice, and they would never dream of trying to hurt you. And then you're going to deal with people that absolutely will try to hurt you. And they might come out initially as pretty nice and pretty cooperative. That doesn't mean that you let your guard down. And you can be nice and you can be friendly back, but you're still going to have your guard up. And you need to watch them. So good eye contact, it sends the message that you're paying attention and that you're confident. Confidence is everything. And part of that is good posture. So you're standing up straight. Your shoulders are back. Your head is up. You're not slouched. You're not looking down at the ground. You want to have a good, strong voice. And we're gonna do some hands-on exercises in class, which is always fun, where you guys partner up and you're gonna do some field interviews where one person's the officer, one person's a citizen, and you're gonna practice these things. You're gonna practice the good eye contact, the good voice, good strong voice. You can't sound like Minnie Mouse and I'm so shy and oh my God. You will get eaten alive on the street. And not to be sexist, but ladies, and I can say this, right, because I am one, our voices tend to be higher and softer than the guys. You got to work on that. You can do what you can. You can bring it up from the diaphragm, You can work on making your voice a little stronger, a little louder. Also, part of good command presence is having your uniform clean, pressed, tailored. You want to look good. If you look good, you'll at least initially get more respect and more cooperation versus if you look terrible. Your uniform is wrinkled, it's got food stains on it, the pants are too long, the sleeves are too long. I mean, spend the money, take it to a tailor, get it fitted properly. All of these things go into good command presence. It's communicating that you are capable, that you are intelligent and capable. People will size you up. People will judge you. That's true of everyone. It's, like it or not, that's human nature. And they actually did a study. This is years ago. They went around to death row and a ton of maximum security prisons all around the country. And they interviewed people who had killed cops. And they asked the question, why? Why that officer that day? And every single one of them had the same answer. And it was because I knew or thought I could get away with it. Well, what does that mean? It means that something about the officer showed a weakness or a gap. It gave the bad guy the opportunity. Maybe the officer looked away. Maybe the officer wasn't paying attention. Maybe the officer just looked weak because he had a soft voice or not very confident and had the slumped shoulders. You get the idea. Whereas a different officer on a different day who had this good, strong command presence, maybe that cop killer wouldn't take the chance with that officer. Whereas the one with the bad command presence, that's the one he's going to take the chance with. So don't let that be you. Have a good command presence. And you know what? This comes with experience. It comes with maturity. Not a lot of teenagers, you're just kind of figuring all this out, and it will come. I promise you, it will come. But just keep these things in mind. And certainly you can practice this. Practice it right now. When you're talking to people, friends, family, look them right in the eye. Think about those shoulders. Think about that head being up. Think about your voice, having a good, strong voice. We're not talking about yelling, like screaming at people, just having a good, strong voice. Okay. Moving on. Reactionary gap. And so this is, again, part of something that we're going to do in class together, but this is good. If you guys see this now, you'll know ahead of time what it is that you're going to be doing. So, and actually it's important that you know this term, reactionary gap. Reactionary gap. Officers should also always maintain a reactionary gap between themselves and a citizen, no matter what the reason for the encounter is. And again, lots of people will have contact with police officers for very simple reasons, very innocent reasons. Somebody needs to ask you for directions. Officer, excuse me, how do I get to ABC? This is not a threatening situation. Yet, you still need to keep that 3-foot distance because you just never know. So it kind of goes back to, you have to have two thoughts in your mind at the same time all the time. And the one is, you're going to be as nice and as friendly and as professional and courteous to everyone that you possibly can. But in the back of your mind, you're also thinking, or you're aware, that you don't really know this person. You don't really know what they're capable of or what their intentions are. And so you have to keep your guard up. You keep your guard up even though you're smiling and you're friendly and you're nice. And that can be tricky to do both of those things at the same time. So the reactionary gap is about 3 feet away or arm's length away from the person. And the reactionary gap, 3 feet, it allows the officer time to grab the subject if he decides to run. It also gives the officer time to step back and defend himself if attacked. So conversely, right, if you're a whole lot more than 3 feet away and the person decides to run, I mean, let's say it's not somebody asking for directions. It is actually a suspect in a crime, and you're interviewing them, you're having a conversation with them, and they take off. If they're more than 3 feet away from you when they start to run, the chances of you catching them go way down because they already got a pretty good head start on you. And conversely, if you're allowing that person to get too close to you and they have bad intentions, they're going to be able to attack you, punch you, stab you, shoot you before you have any time to react. So that 3 foot is a pretty good distance. And this picture, you control the situation. And if you've got somebody who won't stand still and they're moving around, well, first of all, you move with them so that, if they've closed that 3 foot, you need to take a step back. So you're gonna make that 3 foot distance. But you also need, here's where command presence comes in. Sir, if you would stand still for me. Thank you. You have to control the situation. Stand still for me. And then they stop moving, and we'll talk about, well, what happens if they don't, and what happens next, etc. This is just some basic patrol tactics. Your hands should be up in case you need to grab or defend yourself. Never, officers, never have your hands in your pockets. And you want to have your body in a bladed stance with your chest and your vitals away from a suspect, also making yourself a smaller target. And again, we're going to get into this in class. We're going to, I can't really show it to you when I'm sitting in a chair, but you guys are going to practice this stuff, and we'll talk a whole lot more about it later. So you should write this down. This slide. This one is a good training video, and again, I'll show it to you probably in class. This is a video of a terrible situation where a female officer turned her back on a suspect, and she was assaulted violently. So don't think that the guys won't attack a female officer. They absolutely will. Some will. We're getting there. So last but not least, for this week's notes, is I know I'm kind of jumping here, public safety dispatching. And dispatching is an entire career in and of itself. And some people do it part-time, some people do it full-time, make it an actual career. This is such a huge, important part of criminal justice, the criminal justice field. They don't get enough attention or recognition, in my opinion. Everything starts with the dispatcher. Every call that comes in, and that dispatcher is responsible to a degree for the citizens that are calling and the police officers on the street and all kinds of other things. And it can be very stressful and very exciting, and all of the same things that a police officer sees, the dispatcher is going to hear, probably. So I think I put this in this week's notes because if you started out thinking you wanted to be a police officer, and now through all the steps to get hired and all the requirements, you have decided, oh, maybe this isn't going to be for me, or maybe I'm not, I have this condition or that condition, so I'm not going to be able to be a police officer. I want you to think about this as another possibility. So I have a great video, but again, I'm not going to play it now. It's only like 3 minutes, but it really shows you how exciting and chaotic a dispatch office can be. So E911 dispatching is a critical and rewarding career. You can see in this picture, obviously she's at a desk and she has a headset on and she has a lot of computer monitors and she's doing a lot of different things. You definitely have to be good at multitasking. Critical skills necessary for dispatching. And I'm going to go through this quickly. You're probably not going to be able to write as fast as I'm going to read this, but pause the video so you can write all this down. Excellent communication skills, speaking and listening. Be respectful, patient, and professional attitude. Ability to stay calm and focused and control your emotions. Ability to multitask, and that means to do several things at the same time. Excellent computer and keyboarding skills. And strong attention to details, getting and giving all information that's needed. And so you can already see some similarities in some skills here that for sure a police officer needs to have too. Because again, you're dealing with the same people. So the person that's so upset, that is angry that when the police officer gets there, is probably upset and angry when they call you and when they're talking to you. So a dispatcher has 4 main responsibilities, and they should be handled in this order always. The first, and I got it in red here, your first responsibility, your first priority is officers on the radio. The officers on the street. You don't know why they're calling you. If they're calling you, acknowledge it. And you may be busy. You may be doing some other stuff, but you can tell somebody on the phone, I need you to hang on for me. Or, somebody that walks in. Now, there's different kinds of dispatching in a 911 center, which serves, dispatch for the entire county and all the departments in it. And that also includes fire and EMS. You may have one person answers phones and another person talks to officers, and that's 2 different people, 2 different jobs. But that's not always the case. If you are a dispatcher in a police department that doesn't buy county 911 services, and I'll just give you some examples: North Greenbush Police Department, East Greenbush Police Department, Menands Police Department, Mechanicville Police Department. Those are just 4 right off the bat in our area, in our county. You may be that one person, and so you may be answering the phone, answering the radio, and answering people that walk into your station. So dispatch is different depending on who you're working for. So these 4 responsibilities are in order of priority if it's only you and you don't have anybody else to help you. Your first priority is officer on the radio. Answer the radio. Find out, to make sure that they don't have an emergency, that they don't need help, they don't need backup. And then you can tell the officer, hang on a minute, because I'm on the phone, and go back to your phone call. If he's just trying to tell you he's going out to lunch or whatever. Your second responsibility is the telephone. So citizens and other people that are calling, asking for the police. That's your second responsibility. Third responsibility is walk-ins. That means a citizen walks in to make a complaint, to make a report, to speak to an officer. They're having an issue. And I'm going to ask you, here's a question for you to think about. Why have we put walk-ins behind the telephone? So first priority is officer on the street. Second priority is telephone. Third priority is walk-ins. And the fourth responsibility and priority is the computer, because officers are going to ask you to run information, vehicle information, wanted, stolen items, criminal histories, etc. And that's a whole nother job, and you need to do that too. But that's going to take, you should do it as quickly as you can, but that is going to come behind telephone and walk-ins. Often the dispatcher has to do 2 or more of these important activities at the same time. They need to be quick and accurate, and this comes with training and experience. Similar to police work, some shifts are very slow and boring, and some shifts are nonstop with multiple and often serious calls coming in at the same time. Holy cow, we did it. This concludes week 2, notes and lecture. And just to talk a little bit more about dispatching, we do have the 911 simulator equipment in our room. And in your senior year, you have the ability to get a national dispatching certification. It's called Public Safety Telecommunicator 1. So this is, like I said, a whole other career in the criminal justice field that you really might want to give some thought to, because it can be so rewarding, and it can be many of the things that we have said about police work are also true with dispatching. And if you want to help people and you want to save lives, dispatchers do that too. You don't always have to be in person, right? You can save lives through a telephone. And there's a lot of really cool, not inventions, but technology is changing a lot of things. Like, they're looking at the ability for video calls. So can you imagine if a dispatcher takes a video call from somebody, they not only can hear what's going on, but they can see what's going on. And that's going to be critical for the officer on the street. I'm not sure where they're at with making that happen yet, but I don't think it's too far away. And the other thing, guys, in our area specifically, there has been a shortage of dispatchers. I know Albany, city of Albany, Albany County, they had news articles a year ago about like this massive shortage of dispatchers. Just, I don't know, nobody takes the test, or nobody tries to get the job. I don't know. But that means job security for you, and it means job opportunity for you. Bad side, it is a 24/7, 365-day job. So you're going to do nights and weekends and holidays just like police officers if you get into that line of work. We'll talk about that more in person. So I'm going to wrap this up. Think about questions that you have for me that we can talk about in person. All right, guys. Good job.